Hi, I'm PM Terrell, and thanks for joining me here today. I wanted to talk to you today about change and the hero. There's a quote that I really thought was intriguing. The quote is that in AD 1, it took 1500 years for the amount of knowledge, the amount of information in the world to double. But today, the amount of information doubles every 2 to 3 years. I read this in the book, How to Survive Change You Didn't Ask For, by M.J. Ryan. And this got me thinking about change and the hero of books. Change is inevitable. It can come in the form of a relocation, a new or a lost job, a new or a failed relationship. It can come in subtle ways, declining health sneaking up on you, or it can come on suddenly, like a health crisis, a heart attack, or a stroke. Changes can be so huge that they simply overshadow everything else in our life. Nothing else matters except dealing with that one change. And then other times it can come on so subtly that we really don't even realize that things are changing. There have always been people that resisted change. I think of Galileo as a prime example when he spoke out that he had discovered that the earth revolved around the sun. Well, the Catholic Church at the time was saying that everything rotated around the earth because God made the earth and everything else was around the universe's center, which was the earth. So Galileo, by speaking out, and of course he was correct, he was imprisoned. And that was all because of a group of people who were fighting change. They had something in their mind that they simply did not want to admit was wrong. They didn't want to look at change as progress. Sometimes change can destroy whole industries. I think about the milkman. When I was growing up, supermarkets began selling milk. Yes, I'm that old. And the milkman who had been delivering our milk every morning, I remember him with tears in his eyes as my mother told him that we didn't need his deliveries anymore because she was buying the milk and for less money at the supermarket. When you watch TV shows or movies or read books that happened well in the past, you often see newspaper boys on the corners of big cities calling out the headlines, trying to get people to buy the papers. Well, the simple invention of newspaper stands took their jobs away. Even cars, automobiles, which we can't imagine doing without today, across from those cars and those production lines, assembly lines, were carriages, and the carriage makers and horses put out to pasture. Even wars have been fought in different ways, even just in this past century. You think about World War I, with how many horses were being used in World War I. And then you look at World War II, and not only do you have tanks, but you also have aircraft fights in the sky. And it's a commonplace thing. And then you look at today's technology. Everything is changing and everything is evolving. Well, those that embrace change, or at least those who rise to the call, those are the heroes. The ones that resist the change are really relegated to the mediocre sunsets. That they're unwilling or they're unable to admit to changes. I've heard people brag about the fact that they don't know how to use a computer. They don't even know how to turn it on, or they don't have a cell phone, or they don't even have a video recording machine, or you name it. And they see this as a badge of honor. But it really isn't. Sometimes change can be held at bay, and in the past, this may have occurred over years, over centuries, or at least over decades. But with change occurring so much more rapidly today, you have to recognize that change is inevitable and that people need to be prepared to adapt, or they're going to be left woefully behind. I think of the saying, and I don't remember who said it right now, that you can either be part of the steamroller or part of the road. Well, in writing, the hero is always presented with something that he or she did not expect. It's always something that rocks their foundation. It isn't something that sneaks up on them. It's something that occurs immediately, so big that they can't ignore it. And it often sends them on a journey or a quest of some sort. And when they emerge on the other side of this, the hero is really transformed. Sometimes the hero resists the call to action. You think about the greatest books, the classics, and often it's a hero that is presented with an opportunity that he or she does not want to take. But they can't resist this call to action for very long, because if they don't do something, then their world as they knew it is no longer going to exist anyway. This is often referred to as the reluctant hero or the anti-hero. A lot of movies portray, in the Old West, the person that just wanted to fade away into the sunset, but something rocked their world and they had to respond. They had to change. They had to go on that quest, that journey, and be transformed. What the hero never does in a book or a movie or a television series, the hero never rolls up into a ball and lays in bed and gives up and closes the curtains and the drapes and turns off the lights and, pretends that the rest of the world isn't there. If we begin with a hero like that, then we see a snapshot of what their life is. Maybe they've got an alcohol problem, a drug problem. Maybe they've just had a divorce that they didn't want and they've curled up in a ball. But in the very first scene, something happens that pulls that person out of that funk that they're in. Because the truth is that the books, the movies, the television series, drama happens when there's action. Doesn't happen watching someone curl up in a ball. Even if we see them go through this, it can't last for very long. In writing, the hero has to act quickly. They have to be decisive. They have to know exactly what it is that they need to do. They may not know the entire journey, but they know where to start. In fact, the hero never knows everything that's going to happen to them. The character doesn't know, and often the author doesn't know. The author may be setting off on this quest with the hero, knowing where they want them to end up, but not really knowing all the things that are going to be thrown at them. And when they are thrown into these situations, the author often has to be like the hero and try to figure out, how do I get through this? How do I survive this? and get to the other side, so that I know I'm going to be transformed, but I want this transformation to be positive. Sometimes the hero will fail spectacularly, but the key is, number one, he gets up. He doesn't stay down. He gets back up and he keeps moving forward. Number two, he learns from the failure. Instantly, his mind is processing what caused him to fail, and inevitably, when he is faced with a similar situation, he knows how to handle it better so that he does not fail again. And oftentimes, that is what catapults him to success. In the end, the hero has to not only accept the change, but he has to embrace the change and be part of the change, because it's that change itself that is propelling him forward. The novel has to speed up this whole decision-making process because it has to speed up the action. Every single scene that an author writes has to have at least two purposes. It has to do something that is a piece of the puzzle for the book, but it also has to set the stage for the future scenes. In that respect, it's very unlike real life, because in real life, people can remain in denial or put up resistance, sometimes for an entire lifetime. I'm sure that we've seen people that, maybe they were exposed to computers 20, 30 years ago, and they still don't know how to turn on a computer. They may die without ever knowing how to do that. So in that case, life is very unlike a novel or a drama. What never occurs, though, either in life or in fiction, is that change is thwarted. We never reach the point where we say, we're simply not going to allow this change to happen. Even in Galileo's time, he was imprisoned for saying that the earth revolves around the sun, but that did not make it false because he was imprisoned. And today, we are no longer studying that the sun is revolving around the earth. Change is inevitable. Today, more than ever before, each one of us, and sometimes it can happen a dozen times in every single day, we have to make the decision whether we are going to be part of the change, whether we are going to lead the change, embrace the change, accept the change, or if we're going to be left behind. At one time, and I think back to that beginning quote, where in AD 1 it took 1,500 years for information to double. But today, it doubles every 2 to 3 years. What that means is that if we continue to do what we've always done, we're not going to stay in the same place. We are actually going to slide backwards while the rest of the world moves forward. If we do this collectively, for example, if a region or a country were to declare that, we are not going to be computerized, as an example, or we're not going to embrace new technology, whether that is, solar systems or, of course, windmills have been around for centuries, but a lot of countries are just now embracing it and bringing it into the high-tech era. If a country or a region decides not to do that, they very rarely become this, idyllic capsule in time that everybody wants to go and visit. Instead, what is happening is that they begin to decay. Their infrastructure crumbles, whether that's hardware infrastructure, software, or just life is just passing them by. It's the heroes in the books, in the movies, and the television series, and it's actually the heroes in real life who are the ones that are leading those changes, who recognize that change is inevitable, and then does what they can to help propel change forward. Our heroes must always lead the way. And often the hero is actually found inside of ourselves, just waiting for our own permission to emerge. The heroes in my books are always those that lead. They may start out as reluctant heroes, but you can find out more about them by visiting my website, pmterrell.com, and that's pmterrell.com. And I have 3 true books written on my ancestors who were ordinary people put into extraordinary situations, and they had to decide whether to discover the hero within themselves. I've written 21 books in total, so you'll also see a lot of my fiction work at my website as well. And in that fiction, I look for the ordinary person who may not ask for change. They didn't set out to change the world, but something happened in their life to rock their world. And because of that, they had to find the hero within. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope to be making more of these videos, so let me know what you think of it. Thank you.